Well, good morning, and I have no idea what sort of picture you're going to get this morning. The internet is playing up very badly. Everything is slow to crawl, and in some instances not clicking in at all. So I just have to go on a guess by God. Since I did go to the vicar's cocktail party on Sunday, so perhaps by God is as good as by guess. Good morning to the Mirror Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, and struggling this morning. We are actually 10 minutes late on air because we kept on losing the signal. And whether we recognize it or not is difficult to say. It is very difficult to say. But we are working on very hard on trying to stabilize the signal so we don't have to worry about weather or anything else for that matter. Okay. All right. You win. Let's go to the headlines, shall we? No, we won't. We will start off with a little visit to our potter's wheel, shall we? Just to calm things down. Well, we almost made it in trying to rectify one of the situations. Not sure that we have, but anyway, we're giving it a go. Where are we? We are here in the White Hart, and we'll put some light on the subject. Not that it's a pretty sight. And for the first time in ages, I am without a jacket. Oh, goodness gracious me. Tradition overturned. Young Max is off doing other things this morning. And Stuart is, you never know, Stuart, he's like to amble in. But we do expect to have Jane Watkins from Hastings, a long-time member of the Mirador team. And we are very happy to have Jane with us whenever she's able to break through the communications barrier and join us. It is going to be a particularly difficult day today, and everything keeps on dropping out, dropping in, dropping up, and dropping back. But we will do our very best to give you some semblance of service, and who knows what might happen as a result. Who knows, he said. What we'll do is we will depend upon the battery for a little while, if that's okay with you. And that way we can at least find out what is happening in the great wide world. Because we've got a little monitor here that tells us what's going on and what's not. But I just need to hook it up. Yeah. There we are. I mean, the fact of the matter is, while I'm doing this, I have no idea whether you can see me or not. It's one of those things where we had to all hands to the pump. The trouble is, today is only me with the hands. So I'm the only hands that we've got. So I'm rushing in every direction, trying hard to make sure that everything is at least giving us some semblance of service to you. And who knows? Well, there is some sort of jerky service. Yes, yes, indeed, we've got some sort of service for you, and that's the best that we can do. That's the best that we can do today, I'm afraid. But we will carry on with the program, and that way we'll. Well, let's hope that something comes through. We just got a little note from somebody in Uckfield, and the trouble is that with the thing is the way it is this morning, is it came and it went and it disappeared. So God bless you anyway for getting up this early and watching our program. So we've started off with the Potter's Wheel. In other words, a visit to the park at Southover Grange Park, a lovely, lovely park, exactly the sort of place for you to be today. There is shade in the trees. There is a lovely little Knott's garden, a sheltered little garden where you can hide yourself away. And generally speaking, it is a nice family park, a very nice family park. And it's good to see, even in a winter day, the families out there enjoying the outside and enjoying having taken their prams and so on there. I sneer a bit at all this. You don't have to take me too seriously. I'm somebody who pricks the balloons. And sometimes they go bang in my face. Never mind. That's what it's all about. Freedom of expression. Freedom of expression it is. And we would hope that you would value that. Because in almost every part of the world, the freedom of expression is beginning to be eroded. And there are some very happy sounds there of some young girls, some children who are coming into the hotel for some reason or another. It's a joy actually to be here because we look out onto the high street and the sun is beaming down on it. I came across it this morning about an hour ago. And it went right through my head. But I really just felt very joyous about the fact that I was alive in such beautiful, a beautiful little town, Lewes, because we are broadcasting out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewes in East Sussex. And it is just a dreadful, dreadful picture this morning. I'm terribly sorry. But there are some captions, so at least you can tell what I'm saying if you want to know. And I'll carry on as normal on the basis that it might improve as the day goes on. But the unfortunate thing is that we just don't have a very good we don't have a very good signal this morning, and it signaled the signal to us earlier when we were doing Rouser Radio because Rouser kept on dropping out, and that's almost unheard of. So the whole system, we think probably affected by the heat, is just a bit wallopy this morning. It's a wee bit wallopy. But let's have a look at the papers, shall we? Why not? Because what I've titled this morning's program is, and then there were six. And of course, we can't actually give the real title of the detective novel, Six Little Ex-Boys, because that would offend the sensibilities of modern youth. But it's let's say six little. What should we say? Eggshells sitting on a wall, and the poem went. One said, "Edge along or something," and took a great fall, and then there were 5 little eggshells sitting on the wall. So Humpty Dumpty comes to mind. And I hope that the Hens and British Eagle Eyes Association don't get on my back for making them sound trivial. I'm sure that the Hen Layers Association of the United Kingdom is a very important organisation, just so that we get our one a day, go to work on an egg. A slogan which is very fashionable in 30 years ago. But I always thought it was a good slogan, and it should have stayed. Go to work on an egg. Why not? Not bad. I've got to take a sip of coffee to sort my mouth out. So is the let's get around to the papers this morning. The Guardian, Liz Truss is now attempting to reinvigorate her leadership campaign. So the Guardian favors Liz Truss, does it? Or does it? It says the Foreign Secretary was unexpectedly beaten into third place after once being a favourite to succeed Boris. To succeed Boris. So it's an open race. Rishi Sunak heads the list still. But there are others that are coming up on the outside very, very strongly and very, very quickly. And Liz Truss is one of them. And the other is Morny. We'll get her name in a minute. Penny Morny. So that is what's happening in the race to be leader, and therefore our next prime minister, and the next one to actually start to give ground on all the tough stuff that Boris did. I bet you. Want to bet? Right. Okay. Penny Mordaunt, right? And Penny Mordaunt has turned out to be the grassroots favourite. And that sometimes doesn't make any difference to Western, so they don't listen to even their activists. But it does give some indication of who would be acceptable to the country and who wouldn't. Right, so the Times search for Mordaunt in race to be the Tory leader. And the Daily Mail carries on in such theme. The Conservative right is apparently galvanising its support for leadership around candidate Liz Truss. The Foreign Secretary secured 50 votes in the first round of the contest, but the Mail says a shock poll showed Penny Mordaunt to be the party favourite, the grassroots favourite. How that's going to go into the mix, I have no idea. The grandees will be meeting this morning and stroking their chins. The trouble is that, not many of them have got beards to stroke as wise men. They're much like the rest of us, not very wise about anything. And certainly haven't we actually cocked up the world. I just last night before I dropped off to sleep, I forget what I was watching, but gloom and doom and all the things. Very wisely, we get wise 20-year-olds on the television making sensible things, saying, and of course, if this is doing this machine and that machine, and the development is for God's sake, what we need in leadership in this country is experience. We do not need youth. Thank you. I love the vibrance of youth. I love many things about the young, but leading the country is not one of them. You need not only some sort of knowledge of what's going on now, but you need experience. There's no sense in talking about Northern Ireland unless you've sampled Northern Ireland. There's no sense in talking about Ukraine unless you sample Ukraine. Now, what I'm working up to is I've done all those things. So perhaps I should throw my hat into the ring and say I'd like to replace Boris. I could be the hero of a movie similar to the one is Brewster's Millions, in which Brewster has to spend his millions and decides to spend it on politics. This is in the States, of course. But his slogan is, when he takes a look at all the other candidates, is they're not worth tuppence. So his slogan is none of the above. And I could do the same slogan, none of the above. None of those people with their hat in the ring. Don't worry. Don't worry. You need 500 quid or so that's before your campaign money, before you can even get on the list. I haven't got a spare 500 quid around. So I'm not going to appear on any campaign slogan saying none of the above. But I really feel like doing it because I really honestly think that we don't have enough sagacity. I like that word, sagacity, in amongst those candidates that already have their hats in the ring. We just do not have enough wisdom and experience and knowledge for any of them to become top gun. And if you've noticed a switch in our celebration of youth, it's that our leaders get younger and younger, and the country gets worse and worse. Is there any correlation? Oh, I'm sorry, youngsters, but I think the question has got to be asked. Don't you? After all, you're the computer age. You feed all this junk into a computer and come out with an answer, and one answer fits all. Yeah. Not so hot then. Never mind. Daily Mail. Unite now or we lose, Truss tells the Tory right. Right. Okay. The Daily Mirror, switching from right wing to left wing, is not as glowing in praise of Penny Mordaunt as other papers, and claims that while Britons are still struggling with the cost of living, she has suggested cutting taxes for the rich as part of her pitch to be boss. Well, now, I know with the Mirror, it's always a straightforward, they've got it and we haven't. Except that that's totally confused too. If you get a union boss on 100 and some of the thousand, so on, of the same people in their union on the living wage. Yeah, boo. Okay, Mirror. So you're complaining that Penny Mordaunt has said cut taxes to the rich. But you know, the funny thing is that is a sensible thing to do. Not because we're putting pressure on the poor or trying to make things worse, but the rich generally are entrepreneurs. The rich generally are rich because they've generated wealth. And that's what we need at the moment, is we need the wealth generators. And it's all very well to say get people back to work, even with their pay rises, they ain't going back to work at the moment. That's how much commitment the workers have got to the economy. Nobody's going back to work except for the 3 or 4 people at the White Hart Hotel and myself. we're the people who are the workers, by golly. And when you come into this hotel first thing in the morning, you get the most gorgeous smile from any one of the 3 ladies who look after the desk. Shannon, Jane, or Sally. And they make you feel very, very welcome when you come in through the front door. When I come in the morning, Jane particularly always has all the stuff I need to broadcast all laid out for me. Shannon is pretty close behind in that stakes, although Shannon is a bit younger and just occasionally comes in having had a good night out. And Sally is the owner. So, we have to work out what she feels comfortable doing. But nonetheless, she is a great greeter and meter for the hotel, a terrific ambassador. So that's the hotel that we broadcast from and we invite you into. And you can come in and you can have a cup of coffee. You can even sit in the lounge with doing nothing. They don't ask you for anything, any money. In fact, they are remarkable for leaving you alone until such time as you signal that you want anything to drink or eat. And they most certainly do not tamper with us as broadcasters. They let us get on with it. They let us be independent. And it's terrific. And we really, really do appreciate it. So There we go. There we are. Yes. What was I doing? The Daily Mirror. I was ranting and raving about their Liz Truss. Penny Mordaunt cutting taxes for the rich. But I mean, it makes great headlines, but it doesn't mean much. It is in economics. What we have to do is we have to get the economy going again. And with all due respect, is the workers haven't really responded to it. There was a list of about 20 or 30 different government departments the other day, in which well below 50% of the workforce in those departments have gone back to work. They all are working from home. This fabled working from home, which means that you actually, when you call, you get into a queue, which says in the next 10 hours you'll be answered. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But there we go. That's what it's all about. Cutting taxes, which perhaps not such a bad idea in my book. But the actual splash across the Mirror's front page is cost of living crisis. What cost of living crisis? As if she's asked a dreadful, dreadful question. Right. The Daily Express says Penny Mordaunt makes it an almost entire sweep of front pages, with the Express featuring her on theirs. The paper says she has blown the leadership race wide open with her result on Wednesday. Coming up on the outside. I would have voted for her. Not that I can. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. Not a member of any political party. In fact, I'm not a member of much. I've got one or two special clubs that I belong to, and that's it. But my late wife said to somebody who said, we should try and get Keith into the Masons. And she said, leave well enough alone. We leave well enough alone, John, because the moment he was in through the front door, he would try to reorganize the whole place. So I am not a good member of these organizations or societies. I'm a rabble-rouser, and I am in our own society. Rabble-rouser, that's me. Hey, rabble, rabble, rabble. And why not? So anyway, the Daily Express is Penny Mordaunt has blown open the leadership race. It's blown it wide open, and I am so sorry you got a very jerky picture because I can see it here, and there's nothing much we can do about it right now. Okay, that is the Express. It's hotting up. Mordaunt surges in the race for number 10. The Sun is bookies are backing Penny Mordaunt for Prime Minister, according to The Sun. The paper says that of the 6 remaining candidates, she had thumped rivals to become the new favourite. Well, I think if you move too quickly, sometimes you can become the favourite too soon. I mean, look at Rishi, way out ahead, and now there's some doubt, is there? I have to be careful that the papers aren't actually reflecting what the owners want. The Sun, across the big splash of the front page, the 6 with an X factor. A great play on words, yes, of course. He's very original. The Daily Telegraph is most of the papers have picked up on what they describe as a momentum behind former Defense Secretary Penny Mordaunt. The Telegraph describes her as being in a prime position in the race to replace Boris Johnson. So perhaps what we're going to do is get a Liz Mordaunt replacement for Margaret Thatcher. Well, we all anticipated that, really, didn't we? Out of Theresa May, but we didn't get it. I mean, she sort of couldn't decide whether she was a Liberal or a Tory. She couldn't decide whether she was pushing Brexit or not. Such indecision. does not become a leader of the government, or for that matter, leader of anything else. So let's hope that Penny Mordaunt would become something special. The Daily Star, the good old Star, always makes me laugh. 2 pints of lager and a golden retriever, please, landlord, it says. And what its story is that research has shown that most people go to the pub and have as a companion their dog. And they prefer their dog to actually the people they meet at the pub or people that they want to go to the pub with. So there you are, the dog's taken over. Ha ha, well done. Right, okay, that's a review of the papers, more or less. Where are we on time? But heavens, it's 9:06. It's 9:06, and I'm happy to say that it's a gorgeous day out there, a really gorgeous day. And we hope that what we'll get is not sunburn, but a nice day that people can spend outside and rejuvenate their spirits. And a good hot summer, a streak like this, it does just that, despite its dangers. And the weather agency has put out a warning about the weather, saying that it is going to be ridiculously hot and for everybody to beware. So beware. It is going to be a ridiculously hot day. Oh, well, I say that is a bit. As I said, normally we get good news from the back pages. There wasn't much good news reported on the sports pages. However, I have to say that the women's football is doing extremely well. And it's rather nice because one of the leading clubs, not a number one club, but one of the leading clubs to establish women's football and to get parity in wages and so on, is Lewes Football Club. And it has got people in charge who need a pat on the back. That doesn't matter. They should be given due credit where credit is due. They've done a good job, which is now beginning to spread around the country. The rest is all about golf. They play for the Saudis or not play for the Saudis. Old typical old, conflict. Whenever you get somebody to say something forward. But out of the back page is one particularly good piece of news. That is that Britain has become a shipbuilding nation again. Well, a ship refurbishing nation. Because a small Devon shipyard has won a contract from the Ministry of Defence to refurbish a destroyer or whatever we call them now at its Devon docks. The interesting thing is that it is either part of or was acquired by Holland and Wolff. Holland and Wolff is the Belfast shipyard, and when you go into Belfast, you can still see the 2 giant cranes, Samson and Goliath, which dominate the Belfast landscape. They're still there. Sadly, Holland and Wolff, the shipyard, is not. It's gone. But I hadn't realised that parts of it may have been sold to the Devon shipyard because it has the name Holland and Wolff. And if Holland and Wolff is alive and kicking, I for one will applaud. It was started in way before the turn of the last century. Not one was gone the last century before that. And it is a famous old shipyard because it built the Titanic, the iconic steam of the early part of the 20th century, to show how wonderful man was in conquering the elements and so on, and the elements gobbled it up and sent it to the bottom of the Arctic Sea. So Holland and Wolff is alive and well. that to me is good news from the back pages. So there we are. There we are indeed. So now what should we do? I think what we should do is we'll tweak the tab, shall we, of the energy companies. We do that rather well. There it is.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
There we go. There we go. Tweaking the tail of the energy companies. Actually, the picture of the icicles is rather good. I'm a busy little bee this morning. Very hard to stay on top of everything. So do forgive me if I sort of seem to be talking out of my hat. And why not? Why not indeed? But I think it's time for us to look at a little video and let us see what we have cooking here. And well, we have we've shown it earlier in the week in bits and pieces. It is not bad. There's one here just 5 minutes. So like Lewis, let's like Lewis, shall we? See, it's taking an awful long time to kick in today. There you are. That's, shut him up. That's the town that we live in. An interesting town. Looks quite docile on the surface, but bubbling underneath, all sorts of activity, all sorts of interesting people, all sorts of people on the go. Once again, because of the heat and the various vagaries, the picture isn't that great this morning. And once again, I apologize for that. But we say that we will keep and bring you whatever to make sure that there's continuity. That's the important thing. Continuity, like that word, continuity. Anyway, what we're facing in Westminster with 6 candidates in the race, everybody putting on the best face, and I would say that there are 3 who are probably rather stalking horses, and they will disappear at this next ballot. That will actually, I think the next ballot brings it down to 2. It's a head-to-head after that. So who will be on the final bout? Heaven only knows. But I think Rishi, Liz, and now Penny Mordaunt would head the list. I mean, the first round saw some pretty heavy casualties. I mean, Jeremy Hunt took a hell of a thump. Nobody wanted him. But the trouble is, I'm not sure that they've got much of a choice. I don't think it matters. You can stick a pin in a list, and it would be just as simple to appoint the next prime minister, because the best one in the world. I'm sure some of them are nice people, but when it comes to politics and when it comes to dealing with the world, they are unfortunately second-raters. There is no great leader poking his nose up or her nose up across the spectrum in any of these candidates, either the 6 or even the 2. That's the state that we've reached. What time is it? 9:21. Right, okay, the Daily Telegraph we can go back to. Mordaunt seizes the momentum after the first Tory ballot. The Telegraph says that she has a momentum behind her. Penny Mordaunt is the Defence Secretary. And the Telegraph describes her as being in a prime position in the race to replace Boris Johnson. So you can imagine that the enemies are on the way getting the dirt on her at the moment. Because it's been that sort of party, hasn't it? It really has been quite disgusting, to be quite honest with you. If the left went full of odd people who are full of bitterness and hate, as opposed to positive approaches to our social problems and social injustices, I would be tempted to go to the Labour Party. But at the moment, I have to look at the Conservative Party wrecking itself. Exactly the same reasons: mudslinging and greed and you name it. They have self-destructed. The Star. Good old Star. Where are we with the Star? A good chat and a face like Brad Pitt is not what makes like the best pub companion. The best pub companion. Instead, it says, all let's want to have a good time in the boozer with their dog. The dog is the best companion when you now belly up to the bar. And I can't say that will be true. I have no idea, no inkling whatsoever. But all I know is that in post-Brexit, we live in a world that I don't recognise. First of all, I'm not likely to have 2 pints. got 2 pints of lager. Can't manage that anymore. I tend to go for a little glass of wine. And then perhaps, oh my goodness me, come and show it. Come on, show it. Here we are. The first thing in the morning. Look, you see, we could if we wanted. We have every luxury in the studio. Once again, wonderful man, a member of this staff, friendly, happy. He keeps the hotel going. I can't extol the virtues of this hotel enough, and it takes enough crap from people who are, they know all about everything, of course, and it's falling to pieces. But if you spend, as I do, 4, 5, 6 hours a day in the hotel, you realise what a vibrant place it is. First of all, it's got terrific stuff. Secondly, it's got interesting people coming in and out who are staying here. And then thirdly, it's got its own little group of people. I sort of blinked there, so we're having a problem. In fact, I think we are having a problem with Frozen. So it is. What do we do about that? I'm not absolutely sure. I don't know that there's anything we can really do about it. But you can hear my voice, I believe. So let's hope that. Let's hope to. Ooh, gosh, it's. I think it's this one, is it? Well, it may be that it is my iPad that's frozen. Let's hope that that's the case. No, well, I'm not sure. There we go. Right. We have no idea what's going on at the moment, and all we can do is say to you that we hope. What we'll probably do is kickstart this one again as well. Who knows? Who knows? What's doing? We're testing absolutely everything this point. You can see real television in operation. This is what is in the background, but there's panic. Fortunately, we tend not to panic. Yeah, we tend to just laugh these things off. Should we? I don't know. Perhaps we shouldn't. Here we go. Right. We have no idea at all what's added and what's not added, and where it should be and what it's doing. It is all a complete and utter mess. All because of that stuff that everybody is. Well, we could probably get off WordPress, can we? No, I doubt it. I think we need to go back to Facebook. And what I'm really trying to do is to find out whether what I'm seeing here on the screen is what you're seeing at home or on your iPad or on your phone or whatever. Who knows? No, that's me. That would be me with live video. Okay, let's see. There we are. So we are back. It is some of our stuff that is freezing. Well, not certainly. I think the best thing is for us to do what we set out to do, and that is to simply keep talking, keep broadcasting, and hope that people are picking up some of this stuff. Somebody has put an ownership. I don't know how on earth they manage to do this stuff. Nasty little companies around the world that simply just look at things and say, "Ah, well, we'll say we own that," and you get 10 of them in. And the people at Google, because it's not people, it's algorithms, say, "Oh, we've muted this and we've muted that," and then you can appeal. It's the other way around. These people prove that they've got a copyright. It is absolute bullshit. Oh dear, I used the word again. Oh dear. You know, youngsters, it's youngsters in charge of all these big social media things. They've got everything the wrong way around. They've got everything the wrong way around. How they think, why they think, and it's about time that we started a square circle, because it's a miserable situation at the moment. It's miserable all the way around, and we all wallow in the misery and say tut tut tut, and then we blame it on Boris. We get rid of him, and then we'll get another one and blame it on them. No, it's not. It's us. It's our attitudes. We are willing to give in to the easiest route. And the easiest route is that chosen by children. Who wants the chocolate cake ahead of the sandwich, right? And we are, as a society, allowing those people who want the chocolate cake to get the chocolate cake. They don't even provide the sandwiches until far too late. That's quite a good analogy. I remember that. All right. Well, let's see whether we can... what's this one? That's a new logo. Let's see if we can find something else to play you. In fact, well, let's. Perhaps not. We. This is the first program that we did for Mirador. Bear in mind that it was made a couple of years or so ago, and that there are some things that are not accurate in terms of the information it provides. But other than that, we can actually, I mean, it's an hour long. We're not going to pay an hour, but we might pay 5 minutes of it while we sort or find out where we are. Let's try it. Here we go. Hi, welcome to Mirador Television. This is local TV, probably not local TV as you know it. We don't catch. So one thing, we have to do much of that stuff outside. We don't even have a studio. So we don't even have a weather presenter. But we will try to bring you the weather. So when you see me with an umbrella, it's raining. So when I have my walking stick, it's fine. If my hat blows off, it's windy. And if I'm wearing a bikini, it's hot. Not that you're going to see me in a bikini very often. The body's gone, you see, not a pretty sight. But when it comes to mixed weather, well, we really have a problem. It's silly of us to set up the same old rubbish that you could see on regular television, so we're serving up rubbish of our own. But I hope that it's nutty enough to bring you back to watch us again. Stick with us at ETV. Now, what? What is a weekly look about the interesting things that happen in our town? Those of us who live here know about them. To a visitor, they might find them very interesting.
This is ancient Keir Street. It's said that in the early 1800s, the Prince Regent won a bet by driving a coach and four down it. The Norman Castle in Lewes, though small, is one of the oldest in the country. A wooden Saxon fort stood on the mound until 1880. Then William de Varenne, the first Lord of Lewes, built this stone bailey as his stronghold. A tiny castle for a tiny town. Famous celebrations of November the 5th are huge. Almost everyone in townsfolk takes part. He goes way back before our clock to Queen Mary's burning in religious martyrs in the centre of the town in 1556. Free beer? Of course not. But this pub, Brewers Arms, is one of several independently owned pubs in the town. At one time in the 1800s, Lewes had 63 pubs and 17 breweries, and just a population of 9,000, but no free beer. Well, there are the original cameras trying to keep a visual record of what goes on in the town. The famous Bluebell Railway, 11 miles of track carrying lovingly restored steam trains from Sheffield Park, just outside Lewes, to East Grinstead. The line opened in 1882. As the name suggests, the railway runs through wonderful bluebell woods, worth every puff. This is indeed a rare sight. Southern Rail was on strike so frequently, trains in motion were not often seen. This is the annual raft race down the River Ouse from Lewes to Newhaven. It's more than 40 years old. Raises funds for charity, and contestants build their own rafts and try to sink the opposition. Staying with water, this is a lovely spot in Lewes known as the Pells. It was given to the town in 1603. It's the oldest operating swimming water pool in Britain. Lewes has several charming and interesting cafes, despite the presence of dull, interesting chain cafes in the town. The ports boast the best breakfast, and it's certainly very, very good. I can attest to that. Then there's the Runaway. Despite attempts by the rapacious railway barons to shut it, this bistro has been on Lewes Station for more than 30 years. Famous for its bacon sandwiches, Princess Di once stopped by for one. My favourite spot, especially at 6 o'clock on a summer morning, is the Priory. The building started in 1084, just 18 years after the Norman invasion. The Priory withstood the Battle of Lewes in 1264 and raids from the French during the 100 Years' War, but fell to the vandalism of Thomas Cromwell in 1535, as Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries. This is the Crown Court. An assizes has been located in Lewes since early Norman times and has seen many famous trials. Finally, the stocks. Stocks have been used in Lewes for more than 9 centuries. Some say the punishment is still on the statute books. These are old stocks from around the country, but Lewes stocks sit in the council castle. Lots more interesting places in Lewes. You live here, enjoy, explore. If you're a visitor to we're rich in history. Oh, Jeremy, what have you been up to? But what the heck? Anything else you want to know about what's going on in Lewes? There's a very good local publication, Viva Lewes, jam-packed full of information of places, events, and the happenings in this little town. Well, that unfortunately, that magazine has bit the dust during the pandemic. It is being replaced. I can't remember the name of the new one,
I think there is one issue out, or one issue on the boards, and it is being looked after by my good friend and to some extent mentor, John Henty. John Henty is a character around town. I met him. He was BBC Radio Brighton in the halcyon days of local radio, when it was first mooted, not only the BBC, but also that you could have commercially supported licenses under license. And John has been around in various capacities as a journalist and a broadcaster and an advisor and a character. I mean, for instance, he got a one-man show going on Raymond Briggs' books. Who is Raymond Briggs? Ha! Show your ignorance. The Snowman. All right? Yes. But Raymond Briggs has done all sorts of other books as well. Really, and some of them very cutting-edge books. So that's John Henty, and he is, I understand it, the editor of the replacement, and we look forward to seeing an issue. And we also give our very best wishes to John, because he's a very creative chap, very active chap, very thoughtful chap in many ways, but a very pixie sense of humor, which he brings to anything that he touches. is well done. In fact, we do have a program done on John, and we must replay that in the next little while. Give him a boost as editor of the new magazine, but also for people to know the characters that we've got living in our midst. John is a great booster of the comedian, the 1930s, 1940s comedian, Max Miller. And I mentioned Max Miller, and he will bite your hand off to get any either information or belly you up to the bar so he can talk about it. And that's the new editor of the new Viva Lewis, which is called something else. But I don't know. Is it something like Viva Resurrected or something of the sort, or the Resurrection, or I don't know. It's got an interesting title. But watch out for it going through your letterbox in the not too distant future. Good. All good, as they say. Let's see what else we got. Jane hasn't come knocking yet, but it's only it's quite early for us. It's 9:46, quarter to 10, and one has to be cognizant of the fact that that is not a particularly early time for some people, and there's a very early time for others. So that's where it stands anyway. The little hand is on the well, actually, it was on the 45, but it's now on the 46. And never mind about the big hand. You'll find out when you actually pry your eyes open. Okie dokie. Let's pull our usual, because it's rather nice. Let's just take a 1 minute gap and go down to our Potter's Wheel, the South Over Grange Park. Well, there we are. I think trying hard to find out where I am. I've lost myself, but never mind. I'm sure that I will come back. I will return to the saint, and there again is something from the past. Simon Templar was the saint, but in fact, long before the saint was brought to the screen, it was on radio. But the more that it was brought to the stage, Leslie Charteris was the author, and that was a book not to be missed. There were two or three books. There was The Saint, Bulldog Drummond, and a couple of more detective books that Beefy Boys, who were 10, 11, 12, in the 1940s and 1950s would relish taking on and bringing detectives to the fore. Right, we are now at 9:40. It goes on 9:49, and it is going to reach 27 outside again. It's the highway here is flooded with sunshine. It is getting quite warm, and for me to divest in my jacket, you can tell it must even be getting hot in the White Hart. The White Hart Hotel. Just a reminder about the White Hart, because why is it so very special? It has a plaque outside which says that this is the cradle of American independence. And indeed, we had a special program on June the 4th, July the 4th, with our American colleagues, and we had quite a whoop-de-doo because this hotel is where it all began. This is where the American Revolution began, because it's where Tom Paine wrote his significant treatises for the rights of man and in praise of common sense and all sorts of other books. His main theme was, listen, governance isn't just for a few. Governance should be spread amongst the many. And with that, he thought that the idea of us owning colonies and calling the shots from Westminster about the way that people lived 5,000 miles away was all wrong. And they started to believe it as well. Our young man, Max, who's got a very inquiring mind, has lived a fairly sheltered life, but he was looking at the American Declaration of Independence. And in this hotel, there is, signed by Tom Paine, is the Declaration of Independence. It's a copy of it from the American Revolution, the American War of Independence. And on that is the whole concept of stuff them, get them out of the way. And I've forgotten why I started to tell you that. Now I know I was talking about Tom Paine, and not a well-known name, and yet a man of huge stature, who took his pints across the road in the Crown Hotel, since deceased, and he would buttonhole anybody to talk about his theories of the rights of man, and he buttonholed them so often that in the end they threatened not to come in if the landlord didn't stop him from doing this. So the landlord barred him. He wasn't allowed to go into that pub. So he came over here to the White Hart, and now the rest is history. It is famous for being the cradle of American independence. And in many ways, this town, oh yes, we were showing you the the little video that we made about this town, an interesting town, a very historic town, very, very historic town. That you trip over history is the moment you put foot outside your house, and sometimes if you put foot inside your house as well. It certainly has its fair share. And once again, I've totally forgotten what my greatest thought was, but it doesn't matter. Now, what does matter at the moment is outside is very hot. Hey, guess what I said the other day? We haven't heard anybody talk about water shortages and hose pipe and so on. We only do it at the drop of a hat. Yes, we're out of time. Europe is burning, first of all. Is one headline. And wildlife is being threatened as the fires rage through woodlands right across. And public fires get going. It's not a question of stopping them because we don't want to. It's a question of stopping them because it's damn difficult to. And firefighters put in very, very serious moments in danger into their work. And when we've got wildfires, forest fires to all intents and purposes, whether it be across Europe or whether it be here at home. We get them here at home. But millions are warned cut water use or face a hose pipe ban. Well, how do you cut water use? My bill is gone up. What I do is I flush the toilet. I try hard to take as few showers as I possibly can. I don't. Well, I put some water in the kettle, but I don't drink water as a matter of style. I must very, very cautiously and carefully. Didn't stop my bill going up by a tenner a week, a month. So somehow I am using water that I didn't know I was using, and I must have been undercharged for it, and now I'm being overcharged for it. But it is so usual in this country, the very sniff of a decent day, and we are told to cut out using the hose pipes. And in the long run, we are, apart from being a nation of dog lovers, we are also a nation of gardeners. Not everybody has a little garden of some sort. And being able to keep that fresh and sprinkly is important to them. So once again, it's the water companies being heavy-handed. Stop it or else. When in fact they could have started a proper campaign 2 or 3 weeks ago to warn us all what's coming and how to prepare for it. Leave it to the last minute. You're going to take your hose pipe away. It's very typical. It's very typical of the sort of people that we've got in charge at the moment. Very, very sad. Very sad indeed. Anyway, so cut water use or face a hose pipe ban is now undoubtedly would have made the headlines, except that the Tory party's pick a leader, voting is going on at the moment, and also we are with leaderless. What a good time if you're at war to be attacked. I'm not an alarmist. I'm talking about this. What does happen elsewhere frequently, where there are wars or battles or fights. We shouldn't be surprised, and we should actually keep up our guard. All right, where we be? Well, we haven't got Jane yet, but it's only 9:58. Seems to be 9:58 rather than a long time. It's 9:58. Everything is fine. What we'll do, I think, is we'll find some absurd little thing that we've done and play it. I don't know. No, I really don't know. So what we'll do is we will share one of our. Yeah, there we go. First program. Let us do our rant. The rant is about O2 and its disgraceful treatment of its, particularly its senior clients and customers. But I should say I now do have. Yes, it's here. My phone restored to use after about 2 weeks of sheer utter nonsense. Sheer nonsense. And it was disgraceful. And this is how I was so furious that I actually decided that everybody should know and that back off this company if necessary. Here it is. Well, here it is, nothing. Right. There we go. Hi. I'm well known for complaining that computers have taken over corporate Britain, charity Britain, financial Britain, government Britain. We are now all in the hands of the computers instead of using the computers to enhance our performance. However, now I have a real example of how a computer has thoroughly corrupted a company, and that company is O2, one of the communication giants of the UK. Right. First of all, I found that my phone was cut off. I didn't understand that because I pay by standing order. A little bit of investigation showed that although the standing order money had left my bank account, it had not been received by O2. Okay, let's set out to find out why. I can't phone out. I can't phone in. I go onto the internet and everything that they've got says, phone this number, phone that number. I can't. You've cut me off. Also, I can't take incoming calls. So you can't actually tell me what the situation is. So I try your much vaunted online chat. Whoever it is at the other end says, I need to verify who you are. Will you please tell us the date and the amount you paid on your last bill? I've got my bank account right in front of me. I tell them £65 paid on the 30th of May. That does not agree with our records. We cannot help you anymore. So now I'm without a phone. I can't contact O2 to talk to them. I can't get any sort of sense out of them. And what have they done? They've left an 82-year-old vulnerable elderly person without any way of contacting the outside world. That's what they've done. Well, now, hang on. Let's take a look at what they say in their corporate social responsibility. Oh, God, they're fantastic. What they do for our community and what they're committed to is absolutely extravagant, absolutely wonderful, except that they are quite willing and without any sort of backup to leave a vulnerable 82-year-old without any sort of contact to the outside world over a weekend.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But that's for starters. Then, can I get hold of them? No. So then I call their agents. Ariel, with whom I've dealt for many years. Quite a good company in the past. I can't get any sense out of them either. They can't seem to tell me they can give me an overall amount I owe, which is a mere 130 quid. Right? I owe 130 pounds. But I paid, according to my bank, 65 of it. And the rest is not due until June the 30th. That has now, by the way, been paid. But I can't get reconnected, but please send bank details. I send bank details 3 times. And I keep on being asked for the same thing. Why? Because I'm not talking to anybody. I'm only talking to a bloody computer, which does not understand half of what I'm saying, half of what the problem is, and merrily goes on. Corporate social responsibility, looking after our community. Yes, ha, ha, ha. I'll tell you one thing, I have lost total and utter faith in the leadership of this company. Mind you, I think that it's following what's happening in the rest of the country. Leadership is crumbling. I think it's a generational thing. Maybe it's other things. But I tell you one thing, this company is a crap company, right? Now what happens? I then get a letter, right? If you're unable to make this payment for any reason, it's important that you get in touch. Please call us on, and they give the number. But I can't. You've cut me off. Right? I can't call out. If we don't hear from you within the next 4 working days of the date of this letter, we'll disconnect all of our services to you. Right? Now we're talking about 100, actually, to be precise, 138 quid. So all the services that you've already disconnected by phone, and I don't have any other service with you that I'm aware. Now this will mean it may not be possible to reconnect some of the services we provide you. Well, actually, if this is an example of the service that you've got, I would very, very happily, as long as you break the contract, not provide me with services, because your services are crap. This will mean you might lose your allocated mobile phone number, so people will not be able to contact you. Oh, that's helpful. They can't contact me now anyway. You've cut me off. We will advise the credit reference agencies that you have not paid your bill, and this may affect your credit rating. 138 quid. What a threat to a vulnerable pensioner, 82-year-old pensioner, right? And vulnerable. I got Parkinson's. We will pass your details to our debt collection agency, who will contact you about the money you owe. Wow! Now we're really getting into it for 138 quid. And this is one of the companies which gets subsidies, right? You can make payment for what you owe in one of the following ways. Auto payment line, 0800, I can't call out, you've cut me off. By bank transfer, right? Okay, but what I need to know is, first of all, the last lot didn't, according to our records, although it left my bank, didn't arrive in your bank. Can anybody tell me why? Why there is a failure? Because it's not my fault. You choose the method of payment. It leaves my bank and it doesn't arrive in yours, and whose fault is it? Mine. You silly bloody people. If you need to check your account and bills, you can see them by logging into your account at. But when I try to get in and I'm asked for a password, and I try to find it, they say that the last reference is how much I paid and when. Oh, my bank is quite specific about what went out, but not O2. Oh no, it's got its own bloody accounting system. It is a disgrace. As a company, it is a disgrace. And I think that it's time that the government started to look at some of these companies. Corporate social responsibility, it waves a flag, it's doing wonderful things, and I'm beginning to doubt that it does anything. CSR. I happen to know about it because I lecture on it. Corporate social responsibility. This company is a disgrace. O2 is a disgrace. And its former partner, Ariel, which was once a very good company, seems to be following in the footsteps. They're not trained. You don't talk to anybody. It's the computer. There is no recourse, but they cut you off and then tell you how to phone to try and get yourself back on. This is an absolute nonsense. And if this is corporate social responsibility, then it's a disgrace. And we should be ashamed and hold our heads down if this is the sort of thing that we do on the international stage. But never mind the international stage, this is what we do on the domestic stage. O2, you are rubbish, absolute rubbish. And anything you do now will not make up for the suffering and the misery that you put me through, not least of which is you affected my business. You cost me money. And do you care? No, because nobody will ever know about this. It'll go into a computer, which will go ping, ping, ping. Get a grip. Computers are meant to assist you, not to run you, and all you have are people that pay lip service to it and push a button. Get a grip. This is simply not good enough. And if this is corporate Britain, I'm not a bit surprised that our trade figures are down, that our GDP is suffering, that we've got a price increase, and that inflation is galloping. Because you, as corporate Britain, and a representative of corporate Britain, O2, are not helping one little bit. You are sloppy. Your systems do not stand any sort of investigation. And yet, you will carry on regardless. And the government will allow you to carry on regardless. Well, it's time that we hit back. And I'm doing that. I'm starting that. Don't use O2 if you can possibly avoid it. Don't use them. They are a crap company. Badly managed, badly apply the principles of good governance, good corporate governance, and they do not care because all they've got are computers. The people don't count anymore. Yeah, I'd like to say toodle pip, but I'm not in that mood.
Well, that rant is, as you can see, is mentioned June the 30th. So that was a saga over 3 weeks that I was without a phone. So the next stage is that I'm going to ask for compensation. But also, what happened to my disappearing money? They've conveniently not addressed that issue yet. So this is going to be an ongoing, and we can see how well this abysmal company handles my case. At least I've got all the details to hand because it happened to me. It happened to me. It happened to me. Now, I'm trying hard to see if we can bring ourselves up to date. We don't want to write a comment. We can get rid of that. The new post in Delaware events. Oh, this is Lewis present, which is rather a bit gossipy. So forgive us if. But I do get little bits and pieces from overseas, and I don't think I can get that one back because it's from Lewis events in Delaware in the United States, and once tapped, it doesn't necessarily come back again. So hopefully, whatever it was happening in Delaware, which was of interest to us, can be left until later in the day, and we'll share it with you. We will share it with you. The headlines this morning in the newspapers, the front pages, not necessarily the headlines now, but the front pages all taken up with the remaining 6 candidates for the job of head of the Conservative Party and therefore Prime Minister, with Liz Truss and Penny Mordaunt and Rivi, the 3 front runners. I think from this one we actually get cut down now to 2, and then it becomes a head-to-head. Personally, I'm not terribly keen on any of them, but that's just my personal thing. But since on this station we give vent to our personal views, we're not going to worry too much. Let's see it. Now, this is one, the Independent from the other day, is a heartbeat signal is coming from a distant galaxy. In other words, I think what we've picked up in the past is little bursts of sound. But now what we've got is something going boom, 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 boom. So it's are we actually not alone? It is a distant galaxy, but nonetheless, scientists have found an unusual and repetitive signal coming from a distant galaxy. The blast of radio energy is flashing in a pattern that has been likened to a heartbeat. Scientists say it is a fast radio burst, or the still mysterious and powerful blasts of energy that come from deep in space. And it's not going to give me the rest, is it? It should. And which scientists still do not understand. But now I've got to register if I want to continue, so heck with it. It is the first definitive. Hang on. Who we got this morning? Well, we've got live view commentaries, and it looks to me as if what we've got is them from me. The system has picked up somehow my comments and reposted them. So there you are. It does say show, so let's show and see if that's what it is. It's just Lewis News headlines. It says. Sorry, can't give you all those things, but nonetheless, now I can hide it because it did get through the system. Oh, we got through the system. These invincible systems, these computer systems that never go wrong. Which we don't need attending by male people. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
Not too bad.
Good. What are you doing here?
How do you mean?
What are you doing in the hotel?
I'm staying here.
Where are you from?
Ireland.
Come and have a word, will you, on local television?
Okay.
Hello, come on in. No, come on around here so you can be on screen.
What are you doing?
What we do is we broadcast here from 8:30 in the morning until 11:30, and we just snap up people who come by. We have the odd correspondent here and there,
Right.
but perhaps you're old enough to remember a program called Pebble Mill at 1.
I do remember
Sit
Pebble
down,
Mill.
will you? Well, Pebble Mill at 1. I was working at Pebble Mill many years ago before I went to work in Belfast,
Right.
and the whole idea of Pebble Mill at 1 was that the atrium of that building was built with useless space. You couldn't
Pebble
use
Mill
it for
was the
television.
place up in the Midlands. Somewhere.
That's right, in Birmingham. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's turn this around so we can get your lovely face.
No, it's absolutely horrible.
Mine is too. So welcome to the club.
Now, who are you and who are you working with?
Sorry,
Who are you working
I,
with?
I was working with BBC in those days.
But who are you with now?
This is Mirador Television, which is local television.
Right.
Mirador is here. We have a Barbican. I don't know, perhaps if you wandered around the town, the entrance to the castle
It's
is a
just
Barbican.
up the road. We haven't visited yet. We probably would have time today, but it's something on the list.
Well,
to do.
you'll pass it when you just 10 yards up the road, so,
Yes.
and you can see it. But anyway, it's a very fine Barbican because it was built in about 1300 and it was rather modern in its time. But Mirador is a little Barbican. And since we're a little television station,
Yes.
we named ourselves after a little Barbican. So it's Mirador Television.
Okay.
But because we're on the web and so on and so forth, we go all over the place. In fact, my colleague who's not in today was sitting looking and laughing because somebody from Angola and somebody else from Paraguay, yes, are all linked in. But anyway, I want to know about you, not about us. Where are you from in Ireland?
Do you know Dublin?
I know Dublin a little bit. I
Okay.
used to go down and see Bunny Carr.
No, Buddy Carr. No,
He was
haven't-
RTE.
right. Well, I know RTE. I can't remember because I've not been on. I've not lived in Ireland for more than 40 years now.
Right. Now, where are you living?
I live in Essex.
Aha, okay. So you're Irish stock,
Yeah.
living in Essex.
Well, to be absolutely strictly speaking, I don't have a drop of Irish blood in me.
Oh, you do? Listen to the accent.
No, I know that.
He was born
I was
there.
born there. I have an Irish passport.
Right.
By the grace of Priti Patel, our Home Secretary. But my mother was Scottish, my father was Canadian.
Well, isn't that strange? My wife is Canadian, my daughter is Canadian,
Yeah.
and she now lives in Belfast.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
My grandsons hold an Irish passport, a Canadian passport, and a UK passport because of the vagaries of what's happened over the last little while.
Yes.
But what are you doing in Lewis?
Well, it's a bit boring. We're just down to see the opera.
Oh, God, that's not boring at all. Glyndebourne you're going to see.
Afraid so, yes.
And what are you going to see there?
No, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, the Handel opera. Do you pronounce it Alcina or Alcina?
I don't know. So let's say Alcina going on Alcina.
Yeah, I would guess something along those lines.
Have you been there before?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You're regular goer.
Well, so we aim to go there twice a year.
Right. And do you take a picnic?
No, we're just too old. It's too much fat and bother nowadays. We used to, but we can't do it.
Yeah. Many
It's too
years
much of a
ago, I've
struggle.
been here since 1990, and when my wife was alive, we went down to Arundel Castle for it was a Midsummer Night's Dream, and there was a huge thunderstorm, and it put us all to flight.
Yeah.
Luckily, we'd had our picnic ahead of time, so we only missed the play.
Right.
I know Arundel Castle well. I was brought up in Tunbridge Wells.
Were you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
Come
sort
on
of know
round.
this.
Can you bring up a chair?
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
We love having people like you to talk to because the whole point is what happens in Lewis? Who comes to Lewis? Why do you come to Lewis? It's delightful. Now, your name is
Good.
Gordon, okay?
Mary.
And
Mary.
Mary, okay? We had a Mary from Ireland who was 85 years of age, and she came in on Independence Day, American Independence Day, because we have some people in New York, and we bring them in twice a week with all the magic and all this sort of stuff. And she came back and she said, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I would think I'd like my own cooking show. So we at the moment we're trying to find a kitchen for her so she can do her own cooking
I'm
show.
sure the kitchen's in the hotel there too.
Well, it's locked up really because they tend to do bed and breakfast at the moment.
Yes, I do know.
Based on the pandemic. So getting the kitchens going. However, the leisure centre is, and my other young colleague, he's busy doing a program on how to get your weight down, which I would refuse to watch. Right, Gordon and Mary,
Yes.
and you're from Essex.
Yes.
Where in Essex?
Do you know Essex?
Only a little bit.
Witten?
No.
That's where
It's,
Dorothy Sayers lived there for half her life.
Right.
The crime writer.
Right. Okay.
It's halfway between Chelmsford and Colchester.
Right.
So,
Well, Colchester, I know from the oysters, of course.
yes.
Mind you, if you want oysters, you have to go down to
Mersey.
Mersey Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yes.
no Colchester.
There's no culture. The Mersey Island oysters. The oysters have moved down the river.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm just making sure that we all can be seen. Yes, we can.
Right.
What I did do is I worked for Reuters for a decade, and I did a series of programs for the Japanese television called Beyond 2000, which
which was done about 1998.
NHK.
NHK, indeed. Yeah, the English language version of NHK. Yeah.
Yes, watch it for the sumo wrestling.
I did programs throughout the 1990s very regularly. So if you could go back into the archives, you'd see me.
Right.
But we went down to Essex because you've got a test track for one of the cars, where they put the cars on and they test them. You know, they go around for hours and hours and hours being driven.
I didn't know that.
Well, there you are. I've told you something about Essex you didn't know,
Yes.
and you've told me all sorts of things about Essex that I didn't know, and people out there will not know. So it is very good to see you. Now, you're staying in this hotel.
Yes.
You're going to the opera.
Yes.
Right. What else is on the agenda?
Well, that's about it, really.
How long are you here for?
Just 2
Came down
nights.
last night, and we go back tomorrow morning.
Oh, well, you've got a bit of a day to go and take a
Yes.
look.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just actually, I rant. I love ranting, and I
Okay.
was ranting about the fact that you can trip over history in Lewis.
No,
Certainly
that much
can.
is very clear.
Actually, I did a documentary about 5 years ago called "The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town," and there's more blood spilled on this stretch of road than anywhere else in Britain. They've killed more people one way, and over starting with the Battle of Lewis in 1264, right down to almost Haig, who was tried over here in the Crown Court and was hanged. But we've done pretty well over the decades. So there's plenty for you to see if you haven't seen it before, and all within strolling distance.
Yes.
What time is your opera start? Are you afternoon or in the
Well,
evening?
the bus leaves at 10:10
Ah, right. So you're matinee.
Yes.
Well, not really. It starts at 4 o'clock or 4:30. I can't remember. The bell's good 4:30, but we've booked to go on the bus
Right.
because it's simple. If we drive, we can't drink.
Oh, of course not. No, and that is
simple as that.
Oh, Glyndebourne is very much a place to have a glass of wine.
Well, I
or
want to
two.
have a glass. I'm not talking about having multiple bottles. Just want to be able to be relaxed about it.
He's Irish, and he's not talking about not having multiple
Well-
bottles. Goodness graciously,
Well-
disgrace to your nation.
Indeed, I am. Yes.
It didn't used to be, I can tell you.
Right now, Mary, what's your background?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm a Swindon girl originally.
Right.
Wiltshire, and then by accident, I ended up being brought up in Tunbridge Wells. And then I left to become a nurse up in London. And then I ended up in Essex, which is
It's not
just ended up there,
But not an
really.
Essex girl.
I'm not an Essex girl, definitely not. The problem we find, I mean, we're North Essex, which is as pretty as anywhere. It's just, I think it is downgraded because people think of estuary Essex,
Think of Dagenham and places like that.
you know,
yeah.
whereas down south in Kent, you think of Kent, you think of the, of the beautiful Blossom Trail and all this hops and lovely countryside. Nobody talks about estuary Kent.
No,
You know, so it's a perception people have.
absolutely. Yeah.
And yes, I know it's flatter than say down here. It is a beautiful area down here, no doubt about it. But
Everywhere. is flat.
we've got
Yeah.
a lot of, we've got a lot of history up our way as well.
Yes,
you know, so-
my wife. Oh, good morning. This is a journalist. He's part of Mirador Television,
Right.
from the former Financial Times, but also covered the Vietnam War. Now,
Okay.
pull up a chair back there, young
Well-
man. While I know I'm talking to two guests here who had the misfortune to wander by the door and got hauled in. So, I took my wife for a brief holiday in Norfolk.
yes.
And of course, you go through Essex to get to Norfolk.
Did you go there 12 or on the train?
We drove,
Yes.
yeah. But I have a tendency to stop. This is Stuart.
Hello.
This is
Stuart.
Mary,
Hi.
and
Gordon.
Gordon. And if you think he spent half his life in Ireland as well, and in fact, can I tell them about your book?
Which one?
Right. He's written a thriller called The Friends of Rathlin Island.
Rathlin
Now,
Island.
do you
That's, is that off the north coast of?
North Ballycastle.
It
Yes,
is,
yes, I know.
absolutely. You've got it in one. Yes. And he
Thank you.
centered it on that. and it's a thriller. It's a good read too. I have to say to you, it's a good read.
I better take a note of both the name and the name of the book.
Right.
It's called Friends of Rathlin Island.
The what of
Friends of Rathlin.
the Friends of Rathlin Island.
I'm Rathlin Island's leading novelist. There are only two of us.
And what's your name?
Stuart Dalby.
Galway, as in
Dolby.
D-A-L-B-Y.
Stuart Dolby. Yeah.
as in the sound system.
Yeah. And he's typical journalist. You can't shut us up. So forgive us if we keep on interrupting. But anyway, Mary is telling us of her life in Kent.
Oh, right.
And she now lives in Tunbridge Wells.
No, I used to.
Yeah, oh, she lived in Tunbridge Wells.
Yeah.
Is Gordon whisked her off?
Actually, I think I
It's the other way
wished him
around.
off. Yes, I wished him off to Essex, actually.
Yes.
What did you do in your working life, Gordon?
It was a very boring job.
What was it?
Well, I used to work for a wine company.
Ah, a boring job.
But I did the boring things. I did the stock control.
Well, even better because nobody saw you with the.
Well, it doesn't quite work like that.
Oh, I really saw you actually just sitting a bit few off
I'm not in the Jancis Robinson League. Who's the current wine writer for the Financial Times.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Everybody wants to work for fun.
We have a young man who does our wine program. He started his own company. He's only 24, and he imports wines, and he's doing very well. But he amuses me because there is one wine that he brings in from Languedoc, and it's called Illegal.
Okay.
And this little vineyard produces this first-class wine that will not subscribe to the Languedoc region. So they ban it, but they can't ban it. But they say we won't recognise it. And apparently he imports it, and it's sitting on the table. So keep an eye open for it. Illegal,
Okay.
As in spelling out.
as in illegal.
Yes.
Yes, that's actually.
Is it a red wine? Or?
It's a red, I believe.
Yes,
But certainly it's from Languedoc because we've got another lady who contributes, who actually started her career in Hollywood in the United States. We've got a very eclectic mix of people here, and we all were feeling a bit guilty because we're old and experienced. But right now we're just bringing along some young ladies. In fact, we've got two starting little bits and pieces this week who are 22, 23.
Oh, good for
Are you
you.
grooming them then, Keith? Or what?
Oh, shush. So you were in stock control, and where?
I was up in Watford, Hertfordshire.
Right. And in those days, did you pay any attention to English wines?
Yes, quite honestly, not a lot because there wasn't enough of it produced, and in the early days it was. I don't want to say there's some very nice English wines, and they produced some very good sparkling wines.
Yes.
But they're only just now getting their act together, working out what they can do, and we're finally getting some hot summers. They can actually grow and ripen some grapes, which is actually quite important.
Yes.
Yeah, the way things are going, we would be able to grow bananas in Scotland, aren't we?
Well, it's going like that.
It might not be a bad thing in terms of the.
I'm in France. The weather we're getting now is what they have all the time for 3 months of the year.
Yes.
Whereas here it's
Yes.
still unusual.
Apparently, what we do have is because where the channel was split, is that the sort of soil that they have in France, we have in the south coast of England the same soil. So the vines are happy enough in it; they're used to it.
Well, the theory is that if they can make champagne in Champagne, they can make champagne over here.
Absolutely,
Yes.
and so they do.
And so they
Except,
do.
of course, we're not allowed to call it champagne anymore.
But they're charging the same prices.
Well, Prosecco is the one, isn't it? Yeah, you can't call it champagne.
Well, there's some I've had some sparkling wines, and some of them are good. And not a problem with them, but they're not sort of basement. They're not cheap. They're as expensive as the stuff that comes from France.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yes.
Although I understand that now we're out of the EU, part of the problem was that we had a hybrid grape here, which the EU refused to recognise, and that added to the cost.
I don't know enough about. I can't be drawn on that because I don't know enough.
Right.
To
Have
give
you
an
have you
opinion.
maintained an interest in the wine industry?
Well, not in the wine industry, but certainly in wine.
Right. So you're an aficionado.
I like to drink my wines.
Right.
I'll drink as much as I can, as I dare pay.
He and I, at various times in our career, have been members of the Travellers Club in London, which has got a very, very fine cellar
Right.
and a wine committee that I think is headed by people such as yourself who really understand their wines. So I've been able to access half decent wines, and since it's a club, at a subsidised price, which is rather nice.
Mind you, you have to be in the club in the first place.
Well, you do in
probably
the
have to
first
pay
place,
for that.
yes.
Yeah,
Or be a guest, which is even better because
Yes.
you're not allowed to pay for anything in there.
Yeah, no, you used to the benefit of it was that the thing about the Travellers Club it was more or less the canteen for the Foreign Office,
Right.
which were spies and all those kind of people.
I'd never
All
get-
of a sudden, they realised they weren't getting enough people along, little old projects and so on. So various journalists, including myself and others, decided that they would go and we become members. And I said to Colin Smith, another correspondent, I said, well, why do we want to get control, go to the Travellers Club? He says, because we can get control of the wine committee, you fool.
It was once described in the Times diary column as a club for faded diplomats, MI5 spooks, and thirsty journalists.
Sounds fascinating.
Well, it's very good to see you.
Well,
thank you
Very
very
kind
much
of
for
you to
inviting
be
us.
kidnapped as you walked along.
Are we going to be?
You're live now. It's going out. Everything we've said is live, and then it will be shared on Facebook.
And who watches this?
Well, we've got about 3,000 viewers at the moment, mostly, of course, centered in this area.
Yes.
But they come from places that, I mean, there is one that always amuses me, and that is there's somebody in Patagonia that watches us.
Goodness me.
Well,
And
some
he's
do.
Welsh, yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, we
There's
have a
big Welsh
Welsh
down
friend
there.
who
Yes, that's right. You're quite right.
And she was horrified.
But you should be able to find it on Facebook. The unfortunate thing is that today of all days, when we've got it is looking good now.
Yes.
But at the earlier program, the picture was very, very fuzzy because the heat had affected the hotel's
area or whatever.
yeah, or whatever they call it now. And it spoiled the thing. But we decided to motor on, and I'm glad that we did because it's the bit that you're in is okay.
What's the name of the television station?
Mirador.
Mirador.
television.
Mirador.
That's it.
And anyway, let me just finish telling you a bit of news
Yes.
to say about energy. I write Energy Matters.
Yes.
I work for Financial Times Observer. I've got my own publications now. Mine is called greenbarrel.com, which is about investment in renewable energy companies. And I also write about energy a lot. And I've become a bit of an expert on prices and all kind of things and what scanning will go to and so forth and so on. Anyway, Keith,
I'm listening.
back in June, Sunak, Rishi Sunak, you've heard of him, of course.
Yes.
He actually, when he said we are going to give £680 to all the poor people in the country to
Yeah.
help with their.
That's supposed to happen today, wasn't it?
Today, exactly, right, to help with their energy bills. And a week later, they're going to give every household 400 quid.
That's
Right.
fair.
Then, a few days later than that, Select Committee of Parliament called up Jonathan Brearley, who's the boss of Ofgem,
Yeah.
the regulator. And he was questioned, and he said, we are going to put the energy cap up by £800 on October 1st. Okay? Having put it up by 700 quid before, right? When he put it up by 107 quid, it meant that 2,000, the average price for a 3-bedroom house was 2,000 quid a year. That means fuel poverty for an awful lot of people.
Absolutely.
Now the latest thing is going to put it up to 3,000 quid, right? And that is 3,000 quid for more fuel poverty. But the energy price going up like that means the cartel, you see, the oligopolistic cartels of big companies like British Gas, it used to be 6, British Gas, EDF, E.ON, Empower, SSE, and Scottish Power. SSE is now dropped out, and a lot of that £800, right, is not going to go to the benefit of the consumer. It's the companies pay themselves huge bloody wages. Okay, right? The boss of Scottish Power gets 200,000 a year, and irony of all ironies, Jonathan Brearley, who was a government servant, gets paid how much?
Government service.
310,000. It's a bloody disgrace.
Cheers.
It's an absolute disgrace that while people are going into fuel poverty because of this, so it says to me, you're always going about ranting about capitalism. I said, I am not ranting about capitalism. I'm ranting about the excesses of capitalism.
Yes.
You see, by coming in, you learn something.
learn something,
We've
yes.
given you something as well as taken something from you. Thank you very much for coming
That's
by.
right.
No, it really,
And
really-
enjoy the opera tonight.
Thank you.
And in between, your coach is at 2:00.
Yeah,
You've got a little bit of time to at least see Lewis. And if you just turn left after the hotel and walk 100 yards up and look at the right, you'll see the Barbican.
Yeah, we've
Yes.
seen
And that
it,
will
we've seen it,
remind
yes.
you the
Yes.
Mirador is the little Barbican.
Okay. Well,
Thank you very much.
The
Thank
three
you.
attractions of Lewis are the antique shops down the bottom,
Yes.
the art galleries around the place, and then the history.
Yeah.
The castle and Queen's Palace. and all
What
that
I
kind
love
of thing.
about Lewis is
Yeah.
I know quite a bit of the. I should.
You want us to
I
move
s-
because you want to go to
Yes,
your
I know.
Eventually, we need to get him in front of the
Yes,
camera.
okay.
I
Yes.
always
Yeah,
think
go,
that
go.
you've got some alternative thinkers down here. and
Alternative is the right word. Yes, yes. We are rebellious in the extreme.
Lewis is a protest town.
Absolutely wonderful.
If there's something,
All power to your elbow.
Yeah. Well, it all started with Tom Paine in this
It did.
hotel.
I was
Yeah,
just going to
yeah.
say that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just drank in the rights of man last
Yes.
night. So.
Yes. I know a wonderful.
Gordon,
song.
Mary, thank you very much for dropping by. I hope you enjoy the opera, and
Thank you.
I hope so too.
I hope you enjoy your little visit to Lewis.
It's a pleasure to meet
and you. Yeah.
And just
Pleasure
mention
to
I
meet
do
you.
subscribe
Nice to meet you
the
too.
Financial Times.
Good for you.
I do subscribe. I pay the online subscription, so the readers on my phone.
Let me tell you, I get that subscription.
And Mary, any man who dedicates his life to mine has got to be okay in my
you.
book.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I've got to get my.
Right, absolutely. I'll tell you something about it. What is special about it, right? My wife used to work there as well.
All best.
And when she died, I got 60% of her pension. So it doesn't come any better than that. I tell you.
It doesn't
Yeah.
actually. The Financial Times looks after its own stuff.
Okay, the potpourri that we quite often have for a decent program,
Many, many years
a bit of fun.
ago.
And
It's just a little financial rag.
let's see whether there is any update on Sky News. Those are the papers but I'm sure that we can get some news if we want.
It's all about if you've got anything wrong, you fired you. So you developed on the one hand, on the other hand.
Well, nothing has been updated on there. Let's try for the latest news because it's everything is happening at such a great rate of knots today that we can easily get caught asleep at the switch.
Well, maybe you listened to the Today program years ago. Now the FT's on it every day.
Yes.
It's now well. I think it's now the best paper in the world.
Well, I would have.
We're not doing very well here.
I discovered the weekend.
We
Oh, yeah, well,
really
everybody
got
does that.
And then
Yeah.
since I took the subscription, I read it during the week as well. So there.
Yeah. The thing about a Saturday paper, it used to sell twice as many copies as the weekday.
Well, not so much.
You could buy it for the design alone, wouldn't you?
It was a much more general newspaper.
Yeah.
Because during the week, it's a much more specialist publication.
Well, I was very in the forefront of actually internationalizing it.
There we go, the latest news headlines. Let's take a look at what's going on.
They didn't want they don't want the German
Well, they put up the
the voting records of the 6 main Tory leadership candidates. Yes, we got that. The heat wave had forced UK schools to shut early. They've axed sports days, and pupils are told to wear PE kit to school when they're not shut. In politics, Sunak seeks the spirit of Thatcher, as Truss insists she's the only right-winger who can run the economy. In news, Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey has denied sexually assaulting 3 men. In politics, just half Tory leadership candidates promise to tackle the cost of living crisis. So that's the latest stuff. Van der Donk Wondergoal sinks Portugal after Sweden wait to turn on style against Switzerland. Let's see. That's the female Euros. The search for alien life has got a whole lot more exciting. We're getting pulse beats from outer space. Wow, terrific. And why there's no need to panic about an overpopulated world. Well, so we're facing 2 life and death issues. None of the Tory candidates are talking about. Well, I'm not sure whether we can get those to find out what this particular site is talking about. Let's see. Bonanza alternatives we have at the start of the week, but those offering themselves as candidates no, we've got to subscribe to it. It's a waste of space. We've got the main headlines, which is nothing much has happened, except the hot and cold from the politicians. Jane Watkins is in Gordonstoun in Scotland, and she's teaching there, and she had hoped that she would have a good enough internet to be able to join us. But obviously she hasn't, and we missed her. Her teacher, and so we've had nattering in the background, and it's bye. Come on, give us the latest, Stuart. We need some late news here. Where are you? Yeah, come on. Well, all right, you only need to become 5 minutes. You only come for 5 minutes, for God's sake. You're a little visitor, aren't you? It is. It's another 5 minutes I've got into. Okay, right. Now, in a nutshell, what is the very, very latest energy thing? And how are any of these candidates addressing it, or are they addressing it?
I mean, it's not top of the hip anymore. I mean, they're too busy worrying about themselves, aren't they? Look, the energy crisis is still going like a toxic undercurrent, but it's off the radar. It's off the radar now, right. Because what I was saying earlier here is a very serious development. I mean, it's just wicked.
Yes, and it's the sort of thing that they can tangle, so it doesn't become headlines.
But it gets too complex for people.
That's right.
They don't understand energy caps.
No, until they get the bill, then they understand.
Well, last October, I was telling my neighbours and friends that their bills were going to go up, and they said, "Well, what are you talking about? It's ridiculous. It's crazy." I finally explained it all. And it all, as I said it went back to 1974 when the energy crisis then, with the coal miners went on strike, everybody called it 3-day works and so forth. And then they suddenly find, never mind about coal, what about the gas in the North Sea? And then eventually, Richard Thatcher, baby stocks, she actually privatised the things, which was a mistake because it brought an oligopolistic cartel, 6 companies, who did what they damn well liked with the prices. And that became a political issue. Ned Miliband, who was I think it was in 2008 maybe, And he said, well, if I get into power, I'm going to have an energy cap. He didn't get into power. David Cameron got into power, but he didn't like the idea of a cartel. So, an energy cap, sorry.
Right.
So he asked the competition and measures what they should do. And they said, oh, well, you should get cheaper suppliers. But there weren't any. There were a lot of them bargained, the Chancellors and bloody Needlewells and all the rest of it. And about 40 or 50 of them came along. But they turned out, when the gas price started on it, they weren't fit for purpose. They couldn't meet the deals that they had promised. And that meant that, 29 of them went bust. So there you are then. And then once you're in that situation, the government didn't have a bloody clue what to do.
Yeah.
First of all, they said we were going to actually abolish the green levies, and then we're going to get rid of that. And then they said we're going to have a contract difference where which means that the government does a deal with the companies. And if the gas price goes up about what was agreed, the government has to pay the difference. If it goes below, then the companies have to pay. But they do go below.
What do they call that? A sweetheart deal?
Yeah. But it's very good. It worked in renewable energies because somebody wanted to build an offshore wind farm. The price never went down.
Tell me this. It is always a constant source of amazement to me. Is that politicians have a lot of control over a variety of things in our lives, but they have never actually been involved in them. So you say the government having a clue what to do is because they've never been involved in that industry.
Well, what about Ken Clark? He used to smoke cigars, and when he retired, he used to went to cigarette company.
Imperial Tobacco or whatever. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, there are a few drinkers, I suppose, that have done that.
Well, there were some politicians. I mean, Paddy Ashdown, the Liberals. But then again, he was a soldier, so maybe. But he never got into power, did he? So.
No, he didn't really. Right, Stuart. Now, next Wednesday, when you come along with Max to do, it really is. It's the Max and Stuart show. That you deal in energy issues, but you've got a special guest next week.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's John May,
right?
Who is what I call, or friends of me, and I call him Lewis is what do they call him yesterday? I can't remember. What's it, man? Renaissance man.
Renaissance man.
He's a Renaissance man in the sense that he does everything. He's a writer of 16 books. He's a musician, he's an entrepreneur, he is a journalist, and he's a campaigner, an activist. And he has done really very, very interesting things in Lewis. So we're going to have a conversation about where it all started and what his latest projects are. In fact, one of them, which is the River Festival.
Yes, right. Tell us a little bit about that. The thing that worries me is that we have some really, really wonderful things happening in Lewis, and the organisers think that if they tell everybody the week before, that everybody will rush, and of course they don't. People plan the same as anybody else. So this happens in September.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Well, it's July, August. It's only 2 months away.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, because you actually are a patron of this, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, I am. Well, the thing is that John and the various other people, we were really outraged by the behaviour of Southern Water.
Right.
Now, you see, water companies and monopolies, you can't do anything about them.
Yeah, that's right.
But they've been dumping waste in rivers, in the seas, and so have the other water things. To the tune now, Southern Water was actually fined £200 million. But the problem with it is that once they leave the treatment, the law says once they leave the treatment centre, they can be dumped in the environment, right on the land or in the sea or the rest of it. And only if somebody brings a legal case against them are they penalised for this. So the government hasn't brought that many cases because, again, they're incompetent as they are with energy. And so it was decided John Anita, who runs the Star Brewery Gallery,
Right.
thought it would be good because John has been involved in river things. He's involved in everything. Right? And that it would be a good idea to have a river exhibition
Right.
of painters. Now they've got I think about 60 painters who are doing it. So,
Right.
and so on.
And it's just going to take place in the Star Gallery or around town?
No, it's
Or?
going to affect it. Well, for starters, it's going to start in that gallery.
Right.
And apparently the district council for let's go into that subject. Anyway, they, I think, have got various events that they might be taking on. Given their lack of, their lack of managerial
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
skills, I don't
Yeah.
know much. But anyway, the idea
They don't know where Lewis is now.
they think Lewis is a suburb of Eastbourne. Anyway, this really partly to just jerk people into the knowledge of what is going on,
Right.
and how can we despoil these beautiful rivers? How, what are we doing? What is the world come to when we're despoiling these beautiful rivers and polluting them? And that is sort of what's going to happen. And in fact, they've got all painters ready in line to go. And probably we will be talking to some of these painters before the
Yeah, well, that's good. We'll keep an eye on that one. And perhaps if you would give us every couple of weeks, if you give us where it is, where it's at. We actually met our art correspondent, Sarah Fitch Hayes, lovely girl, full of life and so on, but very interesting. We met her at the Star Gallery, and on that occasion, the theme was trees.
That's right.
Yeah.
John did that one as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did trees.
Yeah.
Because he used to run a magazine for Felix Dennett, guys, Tree News or something like that.
Right.
There's another one that John's things, trees. Now into rivers.
Yeah. Well, trees, rivers. I mean, it's all important stuff, and we don't think quite so much nowadays of art as reflecting that. Because we're taken with electronic imagery and so on and so forth. But in fact, artists, because they can be seen in 20 years' time, or 100 years' time, or 200 years' time, not only doing a good job for us now, but also historically. Yeah. That's good stuff. All right, and where are you off to now?
Probably.
No, but you know where it is. Open. Right. Okay. Now it is. It's 10:56, and I think that we'll wrap up this morning at 11 o'clock. So there you are. Stuart comes by. He actually is becoming a regular. Well, on a Wednesday, of course, it's his show. The other 4 days of the week, 3 of them at least, he pops in and lets us know what's going on in the energy sector, and for that matter, in the art sector as well. So we appreciate you dropping by.
Not to say my knowledge of Bob Boris.
Well, his knowledge of Boris, but I mean, the unfortunate thing is that's all going to be taken away from you, isn't it? Nobody's going to care about Boris in a few weeks' time.
Oh, I think he was still making his mouth.
Do you know something? I was going to say the same thing. I don't think you've heard of the loss of Boris.
No, God help us. I told you, didn't I? I told you recently, sometime back, I had a very substantial bet that Boris would not make his term. So I have been buying drinks with my 6-figure, 3-figure sum. So, because I was so pleased with my winnings, I've actually been going around buying people drinks.
Okay, it is 10:57, and let us tell you that tomorrow we will have Melissa from
from New York. She appears now regularly on a Friday and keeps us up to date with what's happening. In fact, I think you were in on the conversation last week. Yeah, we tend to think that nothing is going on in America. And actually, one of the things that was reported in the paper today, in fact, the headline in the Financial Times, is that inflation is still threatening the United States. That the Federal Reserve quite a substantial hike to its interest rates.
Yeah.
And as they say, as America goes, so goes the rest of Europe. So I think that we can expect a kickback from the Fed taking that decision.
Yeah, and also if we're talking about inflation, just one hot laugh. It's very, very interesting that a lot of the contestants are talking about bringing down taxes immediately. And I thought to myself, well, Rishi Sunak says, no, that's not the right thing to do. I thought, well, he's absolutely right. You see, if you lower taxes, that means that people have got more money.
That's right.
That means
inflation. Yeah.
Inflation.
Exactly.
So Rishi Sunak
He's the only one that's got the right to.
He's only got on the right track.
Yeah.
Because what it means that you've got to control inflation first before you can lower taxes.
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely right. But all these other people, I've always said to you, one of the cleverest things I've always did was his cabinet was second-rate people.
Yeah, that's right.
And that has obviously become apparent now.
Yes.
This guy who's supposed to be vice
Totally agree with you.
He said he's actually going to be going down. Well, he should have realised this, that actually taking down taxes.
Yes.
Look, I think it's 4 decades now where it's been gospel for the Conservative Party not to reduce income tax. Right?
Absolutely.
Now is the time not to do it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Now they decided because of a crisis that that's exactly what they'll do. They're doing things backwards.
Yeah.
But tell me this, Stuart. Almost the sole reason for the central bank to exist is to keep a cap on inflation.
Through interest rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's its main responsibility. Why has it not kept its eye on the ball here? Why is it that inflation suddenly has come roaring in totally unexpectedly?
One word.
Yeah.
Incompetent.
Right. Well done. Thank you.
Andrew Bailey seems to me to be totally incompetent and out of his depth.
There we go. Now you know why. You've got it from the horse's mouth.
You control inflation with interest rates. You shove them up, so it becomes it takes away the cost.
I mean, basically, what we've had is a populist government for almost 20 years.
Well, not only that, we've had a sort of a low inflation economy for what, 20 years?
Yes, exactly.
Interest rates, what 1.22%? That was very good in many ways because young people could get on the mortgage ladder. But now, of course, they won't be able to.
No, I mean, there's always a price to pay. There's always a price to pay eventually, isn't there? For
everything ends in an explosion, like it did in 2008.
Exactly. Yeah.
And actually, Gordon Brown did very, very well on that.
Actually, he wasn't a bad chancellor, was he?
He was a miserable old sort, though, wasn't he?
Yeah. Right. Well, we're going to say goodbye now. Goodbye from Stuart.
Hello, Jane.
Oh, there's Jane. Come on and say hello, Jane. Yeah. Come on. Oh, too hot. Oh, what an admission.
Anyway, I'll have a bottle of pale ale. Thank you very much. It's 11 o'clock.
Jane is one of the 3 lovely ladies I was telling you about earlier. This hotel has really got it all. People tend to avoid it because you've got instant coffee shops and the pubs aren't pubs anymore. This hotel has got it all. It really has. It's got a wonderful staff. It's got a great service, and the parade of characters that come through in in an 8-hour period. That's how long I'm here. Is remarkable, including us.
Yeah.
But certainly welcomed by Jane first thing in the morning, boy, does she look after me first thing, and it's terrific.
Oh, you know why the young man here an ice cream?
An ice cream.
No, an ice cream.
I have my usual wine, if I may.
You certainly may.
There we go.
I think we might repair to the lounge.
We will. So that's it for this week. Well, not for this week, for today. We'll be back tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you. Toodle pip. Say toodle pip.
Bye bye. Bye bye, baby. Bye bye. Oh, dear. Anyway, once a week, that's all.